Yeah, just trying to make something happen. Obviously, trying to do too much there in a tight game like that. You can't afford to make mistakes like that, and ended up costing us the game. And
yes, Mike Smith owned the mistake and is moving on. Oiler fans might need a day or two. That's understandable. Welcome to Got Your Back, brought to you by DLR Vinyl Products. Nobody puts in wood, windows, or siding anymore, so we ask you, why would you build a wood fence or deck when you can do it once and do it right with high-quality, maintenance-free vinyl? Give my brothers, Rick or Rob, at DLR Vinyl a call. They've got locations in both Calgary and Edmonton. If you have an outdoor project, decking, fencing, railing, they can hook you up. And the nice thing is, once it's in, you don't have to touch it. Maintenance-free, no staining, no sanding, real high-quality vinyl products. Today on the podcast, well, the stage was set, the building was rocking, the fans were nuts, the team, well, maybe a little rattled by the moment. Strudwick and I will break down the game for Park Mazda. And we will do so with a special guest analyst, author, actor, stuntman, poet, first-round pick, and a core cast member in the upcoming series Shoresy, the Letterkenny spinoff. Terry Ryan stayed up late out east and has some thoughts on the Oilers and a great Who's Got Your Back story for DeBoers. Presented by DLR Vinyl Products, this is Got Your Back. All right, good morning, fellas. All the way from Mount Pearl, member of the Mount Pearl Hockey Hall of Fame, the Canadian Ball Hockey Hall of Fame, author, poet, podcaster, actor, jack of all trades, and apparently big Tim Hortons fan. And somehow, despite the fact that that game was on 3.5 hours later where he is, Struddy, he's looking fresh as a daisy compared to you and I.
No.
TR, what time did you have to stay up till last night to watch this mess?
Oh, yeah, about 3 o'clock. It's 3.5 hours later, but I enjoy it. And I once in a while, I pull an all-nighter anyway.
Once in a while, hey? Just every so often?
I'm on the go, guys. By the way, nice deep dive there. You really dug for my the research on me. But, yeah, you read all those things, so I try to incorporate all those things into at least every week, if not every day. So I get I'm like Kramer in the that Seinfeld episode. I get little naps, but I don't really the whole night.
You got to keep her tight. Fights, Films, and Folklore is the latest book. Tales of a First Round Nothing is the one you were so well known for writing. But today you're putting on the hat as Edmonton Oiler analyst. Asked you to check out that game, and I know you watch lots of Oiler games. So really glad we have you, buddy. And we're going to talk about Shoresy too, because I am some kind of fired up about Shoresy. Like, Struddy, how many guys did you play with that went on to be actors? Because the number for me is 0.
Yeah, no, you know what's funny? TR and I played against each other a long time, and I've known him for a long time, but he was a legend. Even in junior, when we were in 18, 19, 20, we were in Kamloops and he was in Tri-Cities, and the legend of Terry Ryan, like doing all this kind of stuff, like at the bottom of an escalator, he'd glue like a quarter or like glue a wallet. And so people would be coming down, falling, or he'd pretend he's having like some kind of a panic attack at the bottom of the escalator, and people would be jacking up. Like I was like, I got to play with this guy. He was a legend like 20 years ago, more than that.
I appreciate the kind words. I'll take it as a compliment. But I used to, before all this, we used to go around with a video camera, me and myself, Craig Stahl, and a bunch of us back in Tri-City in the day, Lankhouse, Surrey, the Hurleys we mentioned earlier. A lot of guys were from Edmonton, but we made every day fun, and I guess that was part of it. It was, I guess, a little bit of foreshadowing about what was to come. We were recording everything. People used to laugh at us, and I used to have a Kodak those disposable cameras.
Yeah.
They probably haven't been made for 20 years, but I used to go around with one of them all the time because we had a lot of fun, and I seemed to have unique experiences. So when you do that and you record it all, word gets out, right? I didn't realize you guys in Kamloops looked at me or us that way, but I'll take it as a compliment.
Craig Stahl beat the crap out of me one night in Kamloops. So I just kind of shivered a little bit when you said that name. It put me up against the boards and just absolutely teed off. I had Barney Rubbles right across the forehead after, and happened in front of my parents and friends. Yeah, that was part of his job. Well, listen, glad that you tuned into the Oiler game last night, because we got tons to talk about here, guys. I'm looking forward to it. It is time now for the breakdown, brought to you by Park Mazda. where the newly redesigned 2022 CX5 has arrived. Check out the brand new all-wheel drive sport design trim with its turbocharged engine and see the available colors and trims in stock at parkmazda.ca. I drive a CX5 myself, and I absolutely love it. Zippy vehicle, gets me around town, fantastic. And the staff down at Park Mazda is awesome. How was that for a promo read, TR?
Oh, you got my approval all the way.
Did you go grab a CX5 today?
I think so. Yeah, I'm just gonna. Can you guys hold on a second? You were pretty convincing there.
Yeah. So listen, there is nowhere else to start than in net with Mike Smith. And I think, listen, let's be fair to Mike Smith here. I think first and foremost, what we need to do is hear from Mike Smith about a mistake that we all saw. Everybody knows it was a mistake. Mike Smith knows it was a mistake. I asked him about it after the game, and he just did what you need to do in that situation as we go to the Average Joe soundbox.
You just thought you had something up the middle there, or what did you see there?
Yeah, just trying to make something happen. Obviously, trying to do too much there in a tight game like that. You can't afford to make mistakes like that, and ended up costing us the game. And obviously disappointed, but it's one game, and we move on and worry about game two.
Okay, my take on Mike Smith, it's a risk-reward proposition when you got a puck-moving goaltender. Mike Smith plays the exact same, whether it's 5-1 or 1-1 or in overtime. He does not change his thought process at all. Sometimes you get a beautiful up-ice pass for an overtime winner. Sometimes you get what we saw last night, Struds. He owned it, but that was a tough mistake.
Yeah, Mike Smith is a very, very confident guy and a very confident goalie. And, I had a vantage point where I was sitting in the lower bowl. I could see him lining up. I was like, oh no, like that's not the play. And the thing is, it's not, he didn't mishandle it. He made the play he wanted, right? Like that was the play. And it's, for me, it's the timing. It's the timing of it, right? You have to, just knowing where the moment is. I just previously, was sitting with my son. I said, I think we're in next goal territory, wins this game. And, you not that you play safe, but you don't kind of go out there. And he said it himself. It was overly aggressive. So, you know what? I thought he did a lot of good things to start the game before the Oilers kind of got into the rhythm. And then they end up with this. So it's a disappointing moment. Unfortunately, a very hard learning lesson, not just for Mike Smith, but for us Oilers, understanding the moment that you're in at any given time in a game.
For me, Ryan, I'm surprised that a guy who's 40 years old made that play. And I know that it's a catch-22 with Mike Smith because his confidence is why he's there. I mean, that you carry yourself a certain way, you bring yourself into competition with a certain approach, and that's part of your psyche. Well, that has to be why he's such an elite goalie all this time. But there's a confidence and there's a leaving your teammates. What's the word? It's not cocky. I don't find him cocky, but yeah, it was the wrong play. And I find it mystifying that someone that's played that long, who knew, like Struds said, he didn't screw up there. That's the play he wanted to make. He had time to make it. He was behind his own net, trying to hit a guy up the middle, a la power play D-man. I don't know. It didn't make sense to me. And I don't hear you guys analyze every game. But I do watch all the highlights. And sometimes I do stay up and watch some Oilers games. And to me, it's almost like you can see it happening. I know he played all right, but it's I don't know. It's such an obvious Achilles heel for someone that only watches the highlights and reads up on the Oilers, whereby quick in there looks like a butterfly, gracefully flying through a meadow, and the other guy looks like a water buffalo on the first day of frost. Like it's like, what is going on? And it looks like a circus act every time it's in the zone. So again, if I'm him, maybe I don't want to say I changed my game. I'm 40 years old, but I would have to think this, being a veteran that he is, I don't think you'll see that mistake again.
See, but this is the thing with Mike Smith, you guys, and I would take the puck moving ability every day in my netminder. So, but this is the one criticism I have of him. I don't think that Mike Smith is going to evaluate his overall game and say, maybe something about me is that when the game is tight, I can still make really risky plays. And I think fundamentally, I need to evaluate my decision-making moment to moment in games and maybe learn to read the game a little more and be less risky in certain situations. I don't think that conversation happens with Mike Smith. I think he thinks, I screwed that one up. I need to try and not do that again. And then he's going to go out there and be the exact same Mike Smith that might do that. Because guys, he's 40. We've been seeing this for years and years. His risk reward does not change at all based on the score of the game. And I still take it, but when it goes bad, Struddy, and we've seen it before, it goes bad. So I don't know if he's learning the lesson. I think he's going to obviously try not to do it again, but I don't see him changing his mindset in a 3-3 tie in the third period about being aggressive and coming out of that net again.
Yeah, but that's
not
who he is.
staying home.
Yeah, that's his personality, right? And I think that's ultimately what's made him. You think of, what did he play, 5-6 years in the minors? He wasn't a first round pick. This guy's a fighter. Not in the literal sense of the word, but he's a competitor. And I think he has ultimate confidence in what he does with and without the puck. And you've got to have that as a goalie. I will disagree slightly with you, Shagar. I do think that he will take a look and understand maybe, that is just the timing. And I keep going back to the timing. If you're down by a goal, sure, fire it up there. But the timing of it, understanding the moment, where you're at, I think that's something you reflect back as a player, even as a veteran player. You realize, like, you know what? Sometimes I just got to take the single. I don't have to go for the home run.
Yeah, for sure. Well, it was a tough mistake. Respect the fact that he just owned it. Right after the game, he was really matter of fact about it. And I think that's meaningful. If you get in there and you're squirmy about it, or if you're dodging it in any way, he didn't do that. He got in there and answered the question. Connor McDavid, after the game, pretty honest assessment of how the moment affected his group, right? And this was a moment, guys. Like, they've been waiting for this. Fans in the building, Ice District is open. The town's on fire. Anticipation. They've been one of the best teams in the league for the last couple of months. And so this moment builds and builds and it crescendos. And what happened to the group? Here's McDavid as we go back to the Average Joe soundbox.
Obviously, there's lots of emotion. Fans back in the building, excitement. And I thought we just didn't handle it all that well. And they got the jump on us. And I thought we did a great job of getting ourselves back in the game and giving ourselves a chance. And ultimately, it's one bounce to one bounce.
TR, what did you see from them early in that game? Because I thought I saw a team that was a little jittery and maybe a little too fired up.
Jittery, I know, but I expected that, and I expected it out of LA. A lot of people analyzing after, it was as if they were expecting to see, a fluent Game 7 of the finals. I thought that, there's a lot of rookies in the game, at least for the Kings, and as far as the Oilers, a lot of people, there's a lot of pressure on the Oilers. There's more pressure in my mind than there are on the Kings. So both teams I thought would be jittery. What I loved about it, as Bob Laux used to tell us in Tri-Cities, I guess not that we went that far, but hit the rookies, hit the young guys that are out here and they're nervous. And right off the bat, Cassian went at Spence, is it? And a few more times, like the orders came out with it. It seemed to me that there was a game plan, and it was a close game. I love the fact that the big guns got something done, because the longer it goes without those guys scoring, it can be a bit of a weight on your shoulders of not only the team, but they're the two best players in the world. It's like Marner Matthews when they get, they're good players. Last year they had a few bad games and all of a sudden they got to eat it for a year, right? So I'm glad that, at least from an Oilers perspective, that these guys got off and running, Yeah. And like I said, it was a blunder, but it was the kind of game I expected, to be honest. And I still think Oilers. I'm not trying to be. I had the Oilers before you asked me to do this, and I think it was a close game, except one team has the two best players in the world. I know that's simplifying things, but I still got the Oilers.
Yeah, Struddy, like one of the things we talk about, Struds, is this team's ability to bounce back all year, like since Jay Woodcroft took over. This bouncing back is different, though, because it comes with the weight of the past in a different way. What do you like? How do you think this group will react, Struddy?
Well, I think first off, just touch on your question to TR. I think that the team was very jittery, and I thought it expressed itself when Yamamoto tried to mug Iafallo behind the net. I was like 100 feet from that. I'm like, what is he doing? Like it has. But you're so jacked up. And, I've been in that moment, not, maybe in the NHL final, but I've been where you're so excited to do something. I want to win this series in the first shift. Like, it doesn't work like that. This is a long drawn out game and long drawn out series. So Yeah, I thought it took the Oilers a period and a half to get settled in. That goal by Connor at the end of the second or first was huge, but it took them a long time, and we started to see them. I thought it really took over in the second period. Now, as far as the bouncing back, you say, okay, guys, we've been through it. All right, we've had our first dance, we've had our first kiss. Like these aren't firsts anymore. We've all done it together as a team. We know we have a better game inside or collectively as a group. And if Jay Woodcroft, he's very calm. I already speak after the game last night. He was very calm about it. He was honest. He thought we had some, there were some breakdowns. We weren't at our best. We were maybe more excited, all that kind of stuff. So for this team, it's just prioritizing what they do well. They back check hard. They get on the puck hard. They tight puck to the net. They don't beat themselves. Like all those types of things that come up, and they've done it. They've done it for 3 months. So this is not something new. So I'm very bullish on what they're going to start. Look at the start of next game. It'll look much different than what we saw in the previous game. That with again the Yamamoto. I was like, what is he doing? Like it's like he dragged someone up from behind, grabbing a Slurpee, and just mugged the guy, threw him on the ground. I'm like it wasn't even. I think it was Alafal. He wasn't even like involved in it. So that is overexcitement for me, TR.
I totally agree. It's sometimes you watch the playoffs and you wish you had a little bit more out of the guys, and they might look like, what's the word? Lax, not trying, but they might look a bit lax, but it's nerves. But last night, it was the opposite. I mean, these guys came out like they were shot out of a cannon. I thought both teams, and I'll tell you what, I'm really impressed with LA when they play defense. A guy like Kopitar is 34, 35 years old, right? I believe he's up around there. And the stops and starts in his own end, to me, that'd be intimidating. That's another reason the Oilers got through and penetrated, and it's great. And they showed a lot of signs of offense. I mean, that's obvious, but they did penetrate. But when they're low in the zone, guys like Kopitar stopping and starting, and I know that should be an obvious thing in today's game of hockey, but some people don't, though. They wave or they do and the Kings are real good at that. So from the Oilers' perspective, I thought a lot of great things could have happened. They definitely could have had. I don't want to criticize McDavid and Draisaitl. You guys are at the game. I'm watching it at home. Sometimes, though, it seems on the power play they might try to go across a little bit too much. You know what I mean?
That's fair, TR. That's fair. Yep.
That's what I pick up as a fan when watching on the TV. But those are things that are correctable. And the Kings, you got to give them some credit here, right? And at that point, like Struds said, it's going to be whoever scores next. And you were kind of waiting for that, and it's totally correctable. And like you said earlier, to circle back on Mike Smith, yes, I agree with you in one way, Ryan, that, he's Mike Smith, and he's probably prone to doing that again, but more even for your teammates. Like Struds said, I mean, you don't learn much at 40, but you can you can make an adjustment. And I think, he's probably thinking, at the very least, I mean, he's a good teammate. He's probably thinking, I let the boys down. Maybe I can lay off that. Yeah,
and that's a great way to put it. I think that's being fair to Mike Smith too. Your point on Kopitar is excellent. 25-41. 25 minutes he played in that game. So this is about matchups. We wondered what was going to happen. Danault and Kopitar, McDavid and Draisaitl. Jay Woodcroft wanted McDavid and Kopitar. He was mildly trying to keep McDavid away from Danault, though he wasn't afraid of that matchup. He left him out there multiple times. He wasn't going to pull McDavid off the ice and mess with McDavid's ice time to get him away from him. But it was a bit of a chess match in the early going. Phil Danault, you guys, I mean, this guy, we saw him do it last year in the playoffs against Matthews and Connor and Stone. I'll throw a stat at you. He played at even strength. I think it was just over 8.5 minutes against either Draisaitl or McDavid last night. And there was only one shot on net for the Oilers in the time that he was on the ice with either of those two guys at even strength. And I know that's a lot about his teammates and stuff as well. Point is, not only did he do a great job defensively, his line scores 3 goals, including the game winner. And that's without Victor Arvidsson, Struddy. This guy is as good as it gets at doing this job.
Yeah, when we looked at this series, my concern was the 2 centermen. I mean, because you can have one or the other out pretty much the whole game. And we saw Byfield out against Draisaitl a couple of times, and it resulted in a penalty that I believe led to a goal in a power play. So, I mean, Byfield's not ready for it. But I thought it started from the start of every shift in the faceoff. And you could see Leon and Connor were getting down on every single faceoff to try to win it. And I don't know that they were 50%. Like, it was a battle right from the get-go. Then after that, Kopitar would stick close, or Danault would stick close to these guys and moving around. And it was physical. You could see, it was, I love seeing those matchups. I love it. I remember Kopitar's first game against Leon. And after the game, Leon said, I just got schooled by one of the best. And Kopitar is still really, really good. So this is a challenge, and you love it. Like, that's what you see in the playoffs. I don't want to see player A, who's way better, destroy player Z. I want to see the best go at it. And it started again right in the faceoff circle. So, they're going to have to figure it out, because those guys, their ice time is not going to go down, TR. They're going to get more ice time as they work through it.
Well, I thought it was great as well that the boys drew a few penalties. If I'm not mistaken, Draisaitl drew a couple. McDavid right off the bat.
Yeah.
And wasn't that an issue last year in the playoffs, if I'm not mistaken?
100%.
So, when you're looking at a team and you're trying to dissect it all, and it's much easier when it's mistakes out of hard work and maybe error out of nervous energy. And that's what I saw. But again, that's exactly what I expected from the game. Is, like I said, the Kings are the underdog with less pressure in my mind. Some would argue that with, a lot of rookies that are out there, and Byfield, you just mentioned. I mean, he's a great player. But I mean, at this point, he's a really young player, and you set him out there against Leon Draisaitl, and he'll learn. But good things should happen for the Oilers. So it's exactly what I expected. Two good teams. I mean, look at the game stats; they're almost identical. 39-35 shots, hits 40-38, faceoffs won 33-32, faceoff winning percent or 50-49. Power plays 4 each. You go down the list, almost everything is pretty similar, except the Oilers have a little bit better offense, and I expect to see it next game.
Yeah, and I think, listen, Jonathan Quick outdueled the other guy. I mean, that's so much of a playoff series is about goaltending. Mike Smith let in for sure one soft one. I didn't like the snapshot from the high slot there that beat him, and then made the big gaff. So Jonathan Quick, all he did was, when his team got out to a great start and then got a little jittery as the Oilers powered back. I mean, he was dynamite. He stops McDavid on a breakaway in the first 5 seconds of that period. I mean, that's for him to step up in that moment. Those are game-changing moments against the other team's best players. Jonathan Quick, and I don't know if you guys have heard his media availabilities heading into the playoffs here. He is in full-on Jonathan Quick playoff mode, like 2-word answers, grumpy. He's just classic Jonathan Quick, who has clicked in. This is a guy who had to reclaim the starting job this year. And Struds, when he's dialed in, I don't care how old he is or what the injury history is, that game he played last night, man, that was signature Jonathan Quick. Yeah.
And the save to me that really kind of caps off what you're saying was the save on Evander Kane. I think it was towards the end of the first period. It was a 2-on-1, pushes over, boom, gets a piece of it, right? Like that. I think of Quick. I think of a great lateral movement. That's when I think of Quick. I think of that, how quick he is back and forth across that crease. So that was a huge save. But the Oilers, they have to be careful. They don't want to make this series about how good Jonathan Quick is playing. They did ring up 3 on him, I should say, which should be enough to win the playoffs. So they have to keep getting at him and keep getting pucks to the net and getting bodies to the net. I thought that, they did get quite a bit of rubber to him. A lot of it he saw. I really think a lot of it they saw. Yeah. So they have to fight to get in front of those D-men. I thought, give LA credit. They really kind of did that 5 on the die, in front of their net. And they made it hard for the Oilers they could get shots, but they weren't getting, screen shots and or second chances. And as a D-man, that's a dream, because your goalie's going to make that save, especially with Jonathan Quick. So they got to find a way to get inside position on those D-men and then get to those rebounds and get in Quick's eyes, because I think of all the shots TR just talked about, I think a lot of them we saw.
Yeah, he's so reflexive. It's like watching Hasek in the late 90s. They're like, it's almost a throwback, even though he's brought the same game all the. But I mean, he looks 22 years old. He's back and forth. He's up and down. And by the way, when I was talking earlier about Smith looking like a water buffalo, I mean perception. He's obviously a great goalie. He's stuck around this long. I'm pretty confident in him. I just think it's Rick Tocchet wasn't a great skater, but he got the job done. But if you were to look at him skate, you'd say, my God, what's going on, you know. But, no, nothing against it. Turner Stevenson's another guy. I went to camp with Turner. Yeah. Holy cow! This guy's skating. It actually gave me confidence looking at him. Then I went on the ice with him 3 or 4 days, and I'm like, okay, now I get it. You know, big, strong guy gets it in front. It's in the back of the net. I looked at his stats and Freddie. Wow, 30 goals. Right. So I'm just merely talking perception. One thing I do want to point out, guys, I don't know what the word is out there. I thought Duncan Keith played well. Like, how's he been doing? You know, I hear his name.
He was good.
Yeah. Okay.
I'm glad you brought that. Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up, TR, because it was a highly criticized move, and turns out he was one of their more steady defensemen for the entire regular season. They got him playing with Evan Bouchard, stabilizing that young guy. But Struds last night is the reason they brought in Duncan Keith. Last night's game, so he plays 18 minutes, picks up an assist, 4 shot attempts, 1 shot on net, blocks a couple of shots. I thought he was as good a defenseman as they had last night.
He was. He might have been their best. Steady. And I thought that expressed itself on the power play goal. So face-off win up to, I think, was it Bouchard? Bouchard walks the line, pass to Duncan Keith. Duncan has his head up the whole time. Duncan Keith has played, I don't know, I haven't looked. I'm guessing 100, 150 playoff games, whatever it is. He just takes his time, head up, boom. Slap pass to Yamamoto, who taps it in. That is how you score on Jonathan Quick. You shoot it around him and you tip it past him. And that was a great moment. And but he's done it. There are no other defensemen on the Oilers who have done it in the biggest moments. And the first round, no disrespect to the first round, that's not the Stanley Cup final. That's not game 5, 6, 7 in the Stanley Cup final. This guy has done it. He's lived it. So for him, this isn't really that. I mean, it's exciting, but it really isn't that, it's not that much of a challenge. He's dealt in way bigger moments than that. So I thought he was so calm. If I'm sitting on that bench, I'm looking at him. Kulak's playing some pretty big moments too. Hasn't won a Stanley Cup. I'm looking at Duncan Keith. If I'm Darnell Nurse, I'm looking at Duncan Keith. If I'm Yamamoto, I'm looking at Duncan Keith. If I'm Jesse Puljujarvi, who for the most part last night I thought was kind of a non-factor.
Invisible.
I'm looking at Duncan Keith. Like this is why they brought him in. And we can debate it was paid too much or he should have retained money. I don't care, because last night he was their best defenseman. He was their most calm and steady defenseman. So many times there'd be a regroup, he'd get it. And, instead of trying to jam it up right into the LA Kings 1-3-1, he was calm. And he knew that when you have a 1-3-1, they're going to give you the red line oftentimes, or you'll be able to get there as a D-man, and he dumped it in. I like that play. That's a veteran play, understanding the moment and how the other team's trying to play. Great game by Duncan Keith.
Yeah, that's a great pickup by UTR for someone to watch that game, because he's been talked about a tremendous amount in this market. And I agree. He was really, really good. I find it's interesting that he stood out to you. Oilers who need to be better. Struds, I'll start with you, TR. You got something? Go ahead.
No. Oilers need to be better. Was you go ahead first, Struds, and I'll pick up.
Yeah. I'll start with Ryan Nugent-Hopkins. I'll start right there. He's third line center. Centers matter in this game. He got dominated in the face-off circle. I don't think that he rose to the physical moments. I just kind of thought he wasn't much of a factor in that game. And on the power play, a lot's supposed to run through him. He'll be at the top of my list, and I'll throw Puljujarvi second. Struddy, you?
Yeah, Nugent-Hopkins had 2 great chances to score, and one on the power play he missed, and the other one I think it was 5-on-5, and he didn't elevate it. It just went into Jonathan Quick's toes. Like, those are goals you have to score. That's why you're here. Like, you're being counted on to score those goals, right? And he's got to get it done. So, but I'll put Puljujarvi at the top. I think that I believe his ice time kind of went down as it went along. I'm looking for
moved around a lot.
Yeah, he did. And especially in the third, Yamamoto took his spot beside McDavid, and I thought McLeod took Yamamoto's spot beside Leon. So, but this is, again, another learning moment for Puljujarvi. You have to be involved physically. You have to get in there. And, there's been a lot of debate in Edmonton about what his value is. I see his value as a guy who's disruptive. And when he's playing on the outside and he's not engaging physically and retrieving pucks and getting to the net, that area I'm talking about, inside those D-men, he's not an effective player because he's not a one-shot shooter. This isn't Patrick Laine. This isn't Mike Bossy. So Puljujarvi for me is number 1. I expect him to be better in game 2. And I think that's a fair comment about Nugent-Hopkins. I think that he's a guy that, they need him. They need him to score. And when I believe him and his line were -2 tonight or last night, if I was correct. And that's not good enough. They need to find like that is I wouldn't say it's a mismatch with the Kings third line, but he and his line mates have to be better. So I thought Fogle was pretty good, but I look for those guys and that line to be stronger in game 2.
For me, God, I hate to beat a dead horse, but it really stood out to me. And I'll tell you why, guys. Puljujarvi, I've always, I can totally see, if I was a scout at the time, how he went where he did. He stands out to me every time he's just this big moose that's going around. You're like, man, but do something. Like you said, get on the inside or hit or cause chaos, because he's really valuable. I don't know if he realizes how valuable he is, but when you're watching the game, it seems like he's just going to do something. And then, he does a whole, last night, for lack of a better way to put it, he did a whole lot of nothing. As soon as you see him, you're like, okay, something's going to happen. Oh, the puck's dumped in. There's your chance. And then the twirl, and you're like, man, get engaged. But I had to look for it. I mean, there was a couple of Oilers, like I said, Nugent Hopkins, those chances. That's correctable, but that's something that you go back and go, you got to bear down a bit. With Puljujarvi, it seemed like a mindset. He's big and enough to know he's a veteran, so you would think he brings something next. But every time I watch him, I'm left unfulfilled. It's like he lacks something that's so obvious given his toolbox that he should know it, but he doesn't play with enough pizzazz, I don't think.
Yeah, I think a lot of that is fair, TR. I think the thing with Puljujarvi for me is, and there were long stretches this year where he played the game with a lot of confidence and his hands came back. He's missed time due to injury. And I find when he comes back after injury, he really struggles with his hands. He has a hard time getting him up to game speed. And TR, he was hurt late this year. He missed some games. He came back, and I've watched him fight with his hands. And so you enter a playoff game where everything ratchets up, and he's been around a few years, but he's still relatively new at this portion of it. I thought that the moment really got to him, and his hands were not there. And so, Struds, your point about being disruptive and all those things you like to see from him. I think he has no confidence with the puck right now, and I think that's pretty evident in his game. And I think you're limited in what you can do when you get into that headspace.
Just I'll chime in one thing to pick up on what I was saying earlier. See, Struds pointed to this. To elaborate on what I was saying, a couple of times it's in the corner, and he pulls out for the Brett Hull one-timer when he should go to the net. So, he's not causing exactly like you said, he's not Alexander Ovechkin. Once in a while, maybe, but his bread and butter is going to the net and causing chaos, in my mind, and I'm glad you agree. But that's at least what I saw. Some of the choices he made weren't I'm ready for my game in the playoffs choices. They were, practice choices.
Yes, yeah, I would equate it to like a band. Like he's not the lead singer. So when you're on the line, he's the bassist. The bassist kind of sets the tone, right? He brings the energy, gets to the net, forechecks, all that stuff. So I don't think his hands are the big issue, because when you go to the net and you create chaos, that leaves rooms for the more skilled guys around you, the Canes, the Leons, the McDavids, to make their plays, right? That's what they do. But when you're trying to be a skilled player as well as them, it doesn't work. Someone's got to lay the base down, and that's what he does. And that's why he is at his best when he's disruptive. And he was not disruptive last night. There'll be a conversation with him. I'm sure he'll find it tomorrow.
7 minutes and 52 seconds of ice time. That right there lets you know that Puljujarvi wasn't engaged in the way the team and the coach wanted him to be. Still fairly young player, and I would expect him to be better, but watch for those hands, and we'll see if that improves a little bit in game 2. Guys, this was awesome. We could go on for hours and hours, but I got a little notification saying my Zoom call's ending in 3 minutes and 25 seconds. So I'd love to keep going here, but I think we got to shut her down or we'll have a technical nightmare. TR, you're going to stick around. I want to talk to you a little bit about Shoresy, because I am so excited for this TV program. Too. And I'm so fired up that you're in it. Like, Terry Ryan is in Shoresy as a recurring character. Unbelievable. Can't wait to see it. So stick around. We'll talk about that. We'll get a Got Your Back story from you as well. But thanks so much for joining us, man. This was good.
Really appreciate it, guys. Anytime I can come on and talk about hockey with a couple of famous ex-Kamloops Blazers and fellow Western Hockey Leaguers, I jump at the opportunity. So much appreciated.
How many Memorial Cups do we have between the three of us?
That's what Darcy Tucker, first day living with Tucks in Montreal. We go in, Struds, first day living with him. We go up, we get our place. We're, I got my Nintendo out. Like, we're really too young and immature to even be in this position we're in. But it's this cool tower in Montreal, and we go up to
2 minutes and 20 seconds, TR.
Right.
Keep going. 2:20.
He says, he goes, what do you want for dinner? He goes, I really like craft dinner and hot dogs. Okay, this is how young we are. Craft dinner and hot dogs. He said, well, you're making it. I said, why? He goes, how many Royal Cups do you have? And we got in a fist fight. We got in a fist fight right there in our condo. And then, of course, we came to love each other after that.
Yeah. He is a beauty. It's great seeing you, TR. You're the best, man. Good luck with everything you're doing, man. I love seeing you doing so well.
Thanks. Great to see you guys again, too.
All right, boys, that was the breakdown brought to you by Park Mazda, your dealer for life in Sherwood Park off Y Road. Visit parkmazda.ca. Plenty still ahead here on Got Your Back, presented by my brothers, the fellas at DLR Vinyl Products. Stay with us. Hey, Struddy, question for you. Have you ever tried putting in your own fence?
I sure have. Between digging the posts, mixing up cement and digging the holes, it's absolute killer.
It's brutal on the back. Well, listen, what if I told you you could put in a fence without having to dig a hole or mix any concrete?
I'd be much more likely to come over and help you out.
Yeah, well, you're not the first guy I would call, but thank you for that. Listen, my brother's company, DLR Vinyl Products, they've come up with a system where you can actually put high-quality vinyl fence in the ground without having to dig a hole, without having to mix any concrete. They can teach do-it-yourselfers how to do it, and they can also work with contractors who might be looking to start installing vinyl. It's super high-quality product. The great thing about it is that it has fantastic longevity. You put it in, you don't have to worry about staining or sanding or anything like that. I've been lucky enough, Struddy. They put in multiple fences in my different yards, and they've built me 3 decks. I have totally abused the fact that my family is in the fencing and decking business, but it's great product. Give Rob a call in Calgary or Rick a call here in Edmonton. This is a company my dad started. It's a family business. I'm super proud of it, and I'm very proud that they are our title sponsors. That's DLR Vinyl Products in Edmonton and Calgary. Hey, it's Ryan Rashong. While many are feeling the sting of inventory shortages, Park Mazda has you covered. They've got new Mazdas arriving every month, including the redesigned 22CX5 in whatever color you're looking for. They've also got a huge selection of used vehicles with new arrivals every week and some of the most competitive interest rates on cars, trucks, SUVs, and more. Park Mazda, your dealer for life in Sherwood Park off Y Road. Schedule a test drive at parkmazda.ca.
If you're a business owner looking for a general contractor to build or renovate your business, no matter how big or small, Bell Van Construction should be your first call. Specializing in the design, planning, and construction of restaurants, office spaces, professional clinics, and retail spaces, Bell Van can assist you from start to finish. Learn more by going to bellvanconstruction.com.
Folks, golf season is just around the corner, and I don't know about you, but I am some kind of fired up over it. It's the perfect time to get yourself fitted for new clubs or some great new apparel. Well, DeBoers has you covered for all of it. Their facility is first class with amazing TrackMan technology in their simulators and top-of-the-field fitting specialists. You can order now for spring delivery, and they've also got a bunch of new 22 apparel for you to go check out. It's a fantastic group down there at DeBoers. The shop has a great positive feel. I highly recommend you check them out on the corner of 53rd Street and 99th Avenue. DeBoers, helping you play better golf since 1999. Average Joe's Sports Bar in Sherwood Park has proudly served the community and supported minor sports in the area for almost 20 years. It's a great gathering place for sports fans. Average Joe's has massive big screen TVs, comfortable seating, and a friendly staff waiting to make your experience anything but average. Come check it out on Baseline Road, right next to Home Depot, or make a reservation by calling 780-417-1113. That's Average Joe's on Baseline Road in Sherwood Park. All right, time now for Who's Got Your Back, brought to you by DeBoers Golf Shop and Fitting Center, helping you play better golf, your local golf shop for the last 23 years. It's my wife's birthday, TR, and we got 9 holes and dinner lined up for later tonight. Definitely going to DeBoers because I need new golf shoes today. Is it offside for me to go buy myself some new golf stuff on my wife's birthday?
No, obviously, you show your wife a good time, do whatever you're going to do. I'm sure you got something planned, but no, it's certainly not. Not only that, it's going to enhance her day, having you in a good mood. So
I think so.
You must buy yourself something.
I agree. I think it was an early start this morning, and really it could go either way for me mood wise on this, my wife's birthday. So I think a little retail therapy is really more about her than it is about me.
Hey, you're making it's a choice for both of you, right? Of course.
Well, and the guys down at De Boers will definitely set me up.
And I just love that you can golf, by the way. I love that you can golf. We're just getting there now. In Newfoundland, but we will. Newfoundland, the spring is like you'll have a day. It's 17 degrees. We're out of it. We're starting to. Oh, we're going out. There's no wind today. It's all good. But see, the icebergs are slowly going by, and if the wind changes direction, then that's it. Warm breeze turns to a cold chill, and the golf course is empty.
You any good? Like, what kind of game does Terry Ryan bring to the course?
I do the charity tournaments. I just been into ball hockey and baseball and soccer in the summer, so I just don't have time for it. I enjoy it. It takes up a big chunk of the day when you're pretty busy. You know what I mean?
Yeah, for sure. Okay, listen, I want to get to Shoresy. So for anybody who doesn't know what this series is all about, Letterkenny was such a cool series. Jared Keeso envisioned this true piece of Canadiana. He executed it to perfection. Wasn't for everybody, but I loved it. And in this series, he had a character named Shoresy. You never saw Shoresy. You only ever heard from him. He's that chirpy hockey savant that we all knew growing up. And now the spinoff series is ready to go. It is called Shoresy. And Terry Ryan, you are a recurring character on this show. In a nutshell, first and foremost, how fired up are you to be part of Jared Keeso's follow-up project? And how the heck did it come to be?
Oh, God, I'm really fired up. How did it come to be? Well, my whole foray into the acting community was as much luck as it was hard work. But I was working on crew for many years, and one thing led to another. I did some stunts on Frontier. I got to know Jason Momoa. Sorry.
Yeah.
Taught him how to play hockey. Had never skated. And that was my avenue into the acting community. I became part of the union after I had a small role on Frontier with Jason, the very first scene in the show, actually season 1, episode 1.
Got killed. You got murdered.
I got killed.
Give us the line. It. Give us the line that you had to give.
Well, I had to say, please have mercy, but I had to say it in a British accent. So it was, please have mercy, have mercy.
And I had to cry. Have mercy.
Yeah, I had to take my tooth out, right? Because it was this soldier was in this scene had been really beaten up, and he was asking for mercy. In other words, kill me now, not like keep me alive. He was suffering. So that was my kind of avenue in, and I got, I guess you could say, lucky with a role called a Fire in the Cold Season. There was a guy, Justin Oakey, phoned me and asked me if I wanted to be a villain in this particular movie, which I really enjoyed doing. I'd never played anything to that role. It was normally either a stunt or like answer a phone or something in a scene. But anyway, this was big, and then one thing led to another. I went on the show Spit and Chicklets shortly after that. Jared Keeso listened to that, and I believe, I've never asked him, but I know the timing of it. And I know we've talked about him listening. And, I was on there and I talked about being in the acting union and things like that. And I guess someone picked up on it. And there were a few other factors that happened. Season 8 of Letterkenny was a hockey season, and they called for a Newfoundland hockey player. And here I am in the union with no tooth, pro hockey player from Newfoundland. So it was a layup. But there's a lot of, I didn't know I was on their radar. When I say I'm in the acting union, things happen here in Newfoundland. There's 4 or 5 projects going on at a time. Yeah. It's a bit of work for me, but I do crew more than anything. But I would never think like to apply for anything in another province or Hollywood or Toronto or anything like that. So Jared really scouted me out, that's the story. And last June, asked me, followed up on the Letterkenny appearance. Said, hey, man, we got this thing going on. Shoresy, of course, I know. I watch all the Letterkennys. I know everything about Shoresy. And I couldn't be any more happier to have done it. And it was all surreal. The whole experience to me was surreal because I expected my first NHL game. I don't want to seem cocky when I say that, but it was obviously a surprise. It's great to play in the NHL. It was overwhelming. I honestly, I nearly hyperventilated, but I'd played hockey my whole life, and that was a goal of mine. It was emotional because I had envisioned it. I pictured it in my head And that's why, but it wasn't a complete out of nowhere surprise. I just went the 8th overall in the draft. Of course I played a game in the, so, but this was like, I could only compare it to one of my favorite shows is Seinfeld in the 90s.
Yeah.
Well, it still is. And, like they had some classic scenes. So as we were in the dressing room doing these hockey scenes with not only Jared, but, Jacob Tierney's the director. He's another brilliant actor and writer and producer and director. And the hockey guys, Jordan Nolan with 3 Stanley Cups. Brandon played in Carolina.
Yeah.
John Nasty Morasti. I'm playing with Jonathan Diaby, Joe Dolo now, rapper. And all these guys got stories. And now all of a sudden, action. And we're on set with Jared Kiso. To circle back, that's it was like being in Seinfeld and all of a sudden being in the Chinese restaurant and acting with Jared.
Unreal.
Because I'm a huge fan of Jared. I still find it weird saying he's my friend. He is, but I more look up to him.
Yeah, TR, what's interesting about your story, and I've followed you. I know we played against each other a bit in the Western Hockey League, and I've watched with kind of fascination your foray into the acting world. I saw that short film that you made. That was just all about you and trying to find some range and trying to put yourself out there. Man, like you've done stunt work, there's poetry, there's stand-up comedy. It's not easy in the hockey world to be the guy that's the creative artsy guy. You are that guy and you've owned that. You put yourself out there. I don't know. It seems like it comes really naturally to you, but there's also a self-deprecation in your whole story. I mean, Tales of the First Round, nothing. You've owned your story, and it seems to me that self-deprecation and that honesty and putting yourself out there came circle and ended up giving you one of the biggest opportunities of your life.
You're exactly right. And there's a lot to unpack there, but to sum it up, when you go through that, we talked about perspectives recently, you and I, and think about perspective. When I'm 12 or 13, 14, I'm 14, I leave to go to Quesnel, but I'm from Newfoundland. There's not a lot of NHLers from here, especially then. Nobody in the 80s. John Slaney was my hero. He came 4 years before me, scored the big goal for Canada's junior team in Saskatoon, went on to play 200-odd games in the NHL.
I remember, yeah.
John went 9th overall. But for us, it was a defeatist attitude. We would leave, go to the mainland. I played nationals. When you win your province, you go to the nationals. Played nationals in ball hockey, baseball, ice hockey, and soccer. And for Newfoundland, it was go and play the host team first game. So they kill you, they trounce you, and everybody gets a free hot dog, right? That's what we're used to. And it's an inferiority complex, more about population when you go to these things. And it's, that was years ago. It's a lot better now. But, so 4 years later, I'm drafted to the Montreal Canadiens. So in my mind, it was overwhelming. It was so great. It was fun. It's such a positive buzz, but then with that comes expectation, right? So if you don't live up to that immediately, and the Habs is not the Columbus Blue Jackets I'm not being disrespectful.
It's the Habs,
but
it's
the
Habs.
Boston Celtics, it's the New York Yankees. It's all over the world.
Right.
People know, they might even know much about hockey, but they know the Leafs, they know the Habs, and not original six. So my favorite team growing up was always the Habs. So my perspective, even though I was aware that, I needed to do better, at least as far as a prospect and stats and all those things that you keep track of. But I was still living a life that, I'd call my buddies and go, man, I'm taking my stick next to Shane Corson. That never went away. So that's cool. That's cool. Right. Like, and that was like 2 years into my career. I always looked at it a little bit tongue in cheek anyway. And as far as the creative part, I was a creative student. And in junior, if you talk to even in pro, if you talk to anybody I played with, they'll probably say a few times during the year, I'd break out a poem, usually about the team. I'd pepper it because I would be at the back of the bus reading Shakespeare and literally writing like what I consider serious poetry. It was really just journals and whatever. I'd just be scribbling all the time. And at the time,
you put it out there for the fellas.
Yes,
you put it out there for the fellas.
If I said in grade 8 that I wanted to be in the school play as an athlete, you might get a punch in the face. It was just a different time, right? You definitely get razzed about it, but I was always that guy that wanted to do it. So I pursued it. I went back. I went after hockey, and I expected to play hockey till I was 40. By the way, I would have played overseas. I loved it. It was just I had a bad ankle injury in my early 20s. But so I went to school. I got a folklore and major, English minor. I got a Bachelor of Arts, and I just followed that path that I could be creative. I'm not a very mathematical or scientific guy, but I followed
honor
that.
Student, though. Come on now, don't sell yourself short.
Thank you. I love
what's your
that you
degree
do your
again?
deep dives.
Folklore English is your degree. Like what? Folklore English.
Yeah, I know, but I got in there and I didn't even honestly realize until I was almost done that I had a folklore degree. But it's, in Newfoundland, picture where I'm from, it's very unique. You get people that it's the oldest. St. John's is the oldest city in North America. Cupid, Danny Clary's from a place, Harbor Grace. Cupid's lies within Harbor Grace. It's the oldest English settlement in North America. European English settlement in North America. People came over, in the 1600s. And a lot of our population has stayed, like those families are still there and they live on the edges of cliffs. Imagine with no electricity, no heater to come over and live in Newfoundland. People were in Alberta 250 years later. We're here for that long. So, storytelling and singing and dancing and performing and all that becomes part of your whole psyche and culture and makeup. If you were to ask half my family, are they performers? They'd say no. Yet, as soon as we go to the Legion dance or whatever it is around the bay, they'll break out an instrument. I'm like, geez, I didn't know, Johnny, you could play the fiddle. Are you kidding me? So it's just that awesome. Kind of a culture. I think it's much to do with that as it is, where I come from, as much as it is, my pursuits.
Well, it's great, man. It's great. Like I respect it because I was a little bit more, a little creative too. And there were certain things, I'd play a little guitar, write a little poetry. I was the back of the bus reading the poem to the fellas to pump them up guy too. It's not always the easiest to be because sometimes you get some sideways looks, but you've always owned it and you've always just done Terry Ryan and it's got you great success now. So we started talking about Shoresy. We ended up talking about Dan Cleary. That is the tales with TR that you just get. I love the journeys you take people on. Your podcast takes people on great journeys too. Tales with TR if people want to check it out. Okay. My podcast is called Got Your Back. TR, we ask people about a time in their life. We want to do some storytelling too, just about a time in their life where somebody kind of came up big for them, big, small, whatever it is. I think everybody has that story of a time in their life where they were maybe jammed up or whatever, and somebody did them a solid. Somebody had their back. I imagine you've had a lot of people's backs over the years, but who had yours?
That is a great question and one that I love to answer because it's no matter what way you answer it, it's full of love, right? Whoever got your back. So,
yeah, exactly.
On the ice in 1996, this is on the internet. There's the tag is called Terry Ryan gets hit, Damon Lankow and Byron Brisky respond. I get hit in Seattle.
Looking right now while you talk. Go ahead.
There you go. I got Kevin Pop would come at me every game, and
that was I hated playing against Pop. I hated playing against.
Yeah, he was hard to play against, right? He was hard to play against. So he hit me, and it was a bit high, and I was knocked out before I hit the ice. Then my head hits the ice. You'll see. I was out for 4 hours. It was bad. It was bad news. It was the worst injury I've ever had. It took me a year to fully get over it. So later in that game, the Lanks went at him. Damon Lankow at the time, to put it in perspective, as we talk about perspective, he was the leading scorer of the league the year before. Yeah, we had lots of big, tough guys, great player, and the kind of friend that we didn't just hug each other and tell each other we loved each other. He was me too at the time. Heaven forbid we let people see our emotions.
Yeah, he's a quieter guy, right? Yeah, Lanks is a quieter guy.
Totally. So that when he went at Pop was one of the toughest players in the division. I mean, as rated by the players, we used to actually vote on that. And as you know, and then Lanks was one of the better players, if not the best player in the league, being the leading scorer the year before. So for him to go in, and you can see when he fights him, I mean, you can see he's angry, and that anger to me translate as love. It's as much love for me as it is, anger towards Pop. So thank you, Damon, for that. And that's definitely the biggest.
I'm watching it right now. He was so skilled, but he was tough. He's a Sherwood Park guy. So I grew up, man, the legend of Damon Lankow around Sherwood Park. This guy that was an unbelievable player, in unbelievable shape, totally ripped. He was that guy in this community, and then ended up playing against him in junior a little bit. But I can see the ferocity with which he's defending you here and having your back.
He didn't do that all the time. Lanks didn't fight all the time. So, and I didn't see that for about 4 or 5 months. and it brought me to tears, to be honest. I remember
Pretty
exactly where I was watching that in my dad's basement in the summer. So, and off the ice would definitely be my buddy, and I think you know him, Taran Samwith.
Yeah, another Edmonton guy. Yep.
Exactly. Great guy. One of my best friends. Just got back from Nashville with him. Shout out to Taran Samwith, an ex-Oiler. Played 8 games.
GS Construction is his company. They actually sponsor one of the segments I do on the radio here. So,
little
free plug for Taran. Since he had your back, he gets the free plug. GS Construction. I can't remember the tagline.
There you go.
But there you go, buddy. So what? How did he come up for you?
Well, and my life is interesting, as you mentioned. I do a lot of things. It wasn't always out of creativity. It was out of necessity, and sometimes you just got to put food on the table. So my wife and I had made some bad investments, in the mid 2010s, and I don't want to underestimate people out there who are actually struggling after this pandemic and everything. But we were what I consider struggling. It was check to check, and we didn't really know where the next one was going to come from. I went to Toronto. I told you I tried stand-up comedy. That kind of fell in my lap. I did a few other things, but really there was a lot of uncertainty, and so it's basically financial now. Without giving away details, Sandman figured out a way, okay, to get me paid. Everybody kind of wins. He thought outside of the box. I'm not saying, oh, Sandman, can you give me some money? It wasn't like that, but he really did. Use his connections, and had some great ideas. And we sat down, and Sandman got me out of the biggest financial jam I was ever in. And it's actually, you get to this point in your life. I'm 45, and this is why I say hockey keeps giving back. That's hockey players are very, especially guys that have been teammates. And he was my teammate in 2001 in St. John's, and we still talk. We're still really good buddies. It stems from that. And he's a great leader. And, I just can't say enough about it. He's one of my best friends. Not only for that reason, he would be anyway, but he definitely stepped up, and my life would be on a completely different trajectory if not for that. So thank you to Taran Samwith.
2 great stories, and not surprising, TR. That's what you do. You tell great stories. Thank you, my friend. I appreciate you joining us and breaking down some hockey and sharing some tales with us. I can't tell you how excited I am for you. I can just hear it in your voice when you talk about this show coming up in Shoresy and being part of it. You deserve this, buddy. I'm really happy. And I don't mean to put you on the spot. It's coming out pretty quick here, though, isn't it?
It's coming out May 13th, okay? And I got to go do a presser next week in Toronto and then Montreal. And I've seen it because I've got to do this little press junket.
So you've seen it. You've seen
I've seen it, and I got to sit on this. And it's so – I'll tell you what was hard, but this is only a week or two. I just watched it a couple of days ago. So
what can you tell us? I know you got like the gag order and everything. What can you give us, TR?
Oh, God. I don't know. In this world, Shoresy never wants to lose again, and he calls in some recruits to help him. It's senior AAA hockey, but it's relative to everything. I just love the angle because, like I've often said, a junior dressing room is no different than an NHL dressing room in a lot of ways. There's mostly parallels, right? The leaders are the leaders. The jokers. Someone runs the tunes. The coach comes in. He gets you together. There's a way to relate to each person, but other than you take away the nice cars and the fame and all that stuff and the material goods, it's very much similar. So I think senior AAA, everybody's going to be able to identify because Jared Keesto, again, Jared played junior A. People don't realize that. All this, the chirps and the style and the culture, that comes from somewhere. And if you played junior A in Ontario in the early 2000s, you'd have a good idea about how it all went, right?
You probably knew a Shoresy yourself. I love the fact that in all of Letterkenny, we never got to see Shoresy. We never got to see his face. We just heard him.
Yeah, it's great.
And in the trailer you guys dropped, Jared Keeso just decided time to bring Shoresy out, and he walked out of the crapper, and Shoresy was revealed, and I went, "Oh, that's awesome!" I'm really looking forward to it, man. Fights, Films, and Folklore is the book. Tales of a First Round Nothing was the original. I'll be honest with you. I want to get to these, but you got to do an audio book, buddy. You've got a voice for radio. You need to lay down an audio book because I would love to hear you read your own book.
I'm going to take this clip that you just spun and I'm
going
to
send
it to the publisher. Yes. I'm not kidding you about that.
Tales with TR is the podcast, and I love it. Long form interviews with buddies telling stories.
Yeah.
Absolutely love the format, talking hockey. Your old man's involved in that a lot too, which is really cool. And of course, Shoresy is the television program that we can't wait to see. Terry Ryan, thank you, my friend. You're going to come back. Fans will demand it.
Ryan, it's been an absolute hoot talking to you today. It's great to catch up. And actually, I really respect you. You've gone on to do some great things. You know, we talk about creative writing, you know, you're broadcasting, you're writing, you're doing everything that I think, you know, makes you you. So you're pursuing what you wanted to pursue, much like I am. And I really respect you for it. You're great at it. Thanks for making me part of your show today.
Yeah, you bet, buddy. We'll talk to you again soon. That is Terry Ryan, and that will wrap up today's podcast. Quick reminder, folks, we do want to hear from you. We love reading your stories on the air too. gybpod@gmail.com. I'm going to get to some of these in the episodes to come. It's been a while since we've read one from a listener, but we'll probably do it next episode. So that's gybpod@gmail.com. Tell us about the time in your life where somebody had your back. That'll wrap up the episode, folks. Big thanks to our sponsors. My brothers over at DLR Vinyl Products didn't make me do any push-ups on the podcast today. So Rick and Rob, thanks, fellas. Park Mazda, Belvan Construction, DeBoer's Golf Shop, and of course, Average Joe's Sports Bar in Sherwood Park. Oilers with a tough loss. Fans, take a day or so. Let it breathe. I have a feeling this team has what it takes to bounce back. There's a different quality with this group this year. We will find out in game number 2. We'll drop another podcast after that game. This has been Got Your Back, presented by DLR Vinyl Products. Have an awesome day, folks.